On the last one, we got the cab mounted back on the frame, and hopefully that's the last time. So we're going to move into the cab where I have to address the cab mounts. I also put plates on the last episode underneath the cab, and even though I have some rust issues here, I'm going to throw another plate on top and weld that in and sandwich the two together. I think that that'll be good enough, and I'll do this on all four corners. After I made the plates, I went ahead and drilled them from the top through to the bottom and just got everything lined up with the body mounts. I wire wheeled everything back down to bare metal and sprayed it with some etching primer, hopefully to kind of stop the rust, at least prevent it as much as I can. I threw in a couple tacks around the edges of the plates just to hold them so they don't move around. This is them all tacked up, and then of course I just hit them with a ton of paint. My truck always had these weird leaks where it would drip out of the bottom corners of the windshield, out of the seal, and I couldn't figure out why until the other day. I saw some paint bubbling, and I poked around with a screwdriver and found these rust holes at the top corners of either cab, so these have to be addressed next. I went ahead and covered up the windshield. I made that mistake once, welding on the truck, and burned a bunch of holes into the windshield, but I cleaned this up, and I'm just going to put a big piece over the top of it just to make sure that it seals. I could do a better job of cutting this all out and making it look good, but ultimately the roll cage bars are going to cover this anyway, so I'm not too worried about how it looks. I kind of had to take my time on this because I didn't want to get too hot. It's right up against that rubber windshield seal, so I would also pat it down with this wet rag every once in a while so I didn't completely melt it. And yeah, it came out pretty shitty, but I'm going to grind it down and make it look a little bit smoother. And then I decided to put some 5-min epoxy over it. I don't know, this is just what I came up with. I'm going to paint it over it and just hope that this helps seal it up even better. Once that was all cured, I hit it with some red oxide primer. That's pretty much the closest color to my truck in a can that I can find. And moved to the other side and got that one all dialed in as well. And next it was on to removing the mirrors and some trim pieces and the windshield wipers. I'm going to give all these a fresh coat of paint as well, but it's all got to come off and prep for painting the cab itself. Little backstory on how I got the current color and patina. The truck was originally black from the factory. I knew I wanted to paint it and change the color. I couldn't decide whether I wanted brown or yellow, so I went kind of in between with this, I don't know, cinnamon color or whatever it was. I just mixed primary colors until I got what I wanted out of Rust-Oleum paint from Home Depot, thinned it with paint thinner and sprayed it. Eventually it started fading and looking kind of almost peach or pink, so I candy coated it with a burnt orange, and that kind of got it away from that color and more toward an orange. And then I put Poppy's patina over that. I'm not sure if I mixed it right, but that also eventually started to fade, so it's definitely time for a refresher. So next I wet sanded the whole thing with 300 grit and taped it all off and got it ready for paint.
Now maybe did I mean to treat you bad, yeah, but I did it anyway. And then maybe some would say your life was sad, yeah, but you lived it anyway. And so maybe your friends that stand around you watch you crumble as you fall down to the ground. And then someday your friends that stand beside.
So I don't want to change the color of my truck. I like it. I am going to try and candy coat it a little bit again to get it away from that peach color. So I got some real paint and this mix-all stuff. I thought that this would work good as a tint. Turns out not really, but it ended up doing the trick. I went with a dark brown just if anything to make it darker. It didn't mix in real well, and yeah, it ended up eating the cup anyway, so I went and got a mason jar and remixed it again. And I do have an actual spray gun that I bought from AutoZone, but I don't know what the hell happened. I was twisting this knob and it broke and a spring shot out. I don't even know what the hell it does, but the thing's a piece of shit. I ended up just banging it on something to get it to spray. It wasn't working at first, but eventually it started to work, so I think we're good to go. Initially, it was just spraying out clear. I thought maybe I need to put more of that tint stuff in there, but turns out, yeah, that stuff just wasn't the right product, and it kind of settled at the bottom. So as I went, it started to get a little bit darker, and I don't know, I just kind of made sure it was even and just kept moving.
Your friends to stand beside as you were flying. Oh, you were flying oh so high. But then someday people look at you. They're what they call their own. They watch you suffer. Yeah, here you're going home. And then someday we can take our time to brush the leaves aside.
And it actually turned out pretty good. It just darkened everything up, which is what I wanted it to do. As I was finishing up, my compressor decided to shit the bed, so I guess I got to figure that out now. These trucks originally came with decals that looked like the stripes. I ended up painting them on, but after doing so many tinted coats, they kind of started fading and looked a little tan. I wanted to spruce them up a little bit, so I'm going to tape those off and brighten them up with a little bit of white. I'm not a fan of fake patina, but I thought that if I spray painted these stark white on an old patinaed truck, it wouldn't look right. So I opted for the airbrush so I can kind of just have some control over not making them way too white and look kind of weird. It's kind of hard to tell how bright you're making things when they're taped off, but it ended up turning out good. So I went ahead and did the other side the same exact way. After sitting for about a day, my air compressor decided to turn back on, so I went ahead and covered the airbrush paint, which really didn't stick that well, with some clear just to seal those in. And while that was drying, I cleaned up my Bilstein shocks and hit them with some clear as well just to brighten them up. And while I was waiting for all that to dry, I decided to go ahead and wire wheel up the mirrors. They were kind of rusty, but I'm going to clean them all up and hit them with some fresh black paint as well. You really can't see, but at one point I did tape these white stripes off and kind of pinstripe outline them with gold paint. And the reason you couldn't see it was just gold paint is not that bright. So the plan is to redo those gold pinstripes, but this time I decided to go with gold leaf, make it pop a little bit more so you could actually see it. I've never done gold leaf before, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. I did some research and just ordered this brush-on adhesive and then some gold leaf. It all came off Amazon, so I'm going to test it out on this straight section right here and see how it goes. And you basically tape off where you want the gold leaf to stick and brush on the adhesive. Let it tack up for a few minutes and then peel the tape back off and go ahead and apply the gold leaf. This is the stuff that I got. It's really inexpensive for being gold, and I don't know why the hell this lady has it on her face. This stuff is impossibly thin. I mean, my fat fingers really couldn't handle it too well. It just kind of stuck to everything and floated away and got stuck to itself. But you kind of just tap it on there, and wherever the adhesive was is where it sticks. After you get it on there, you come back with a paintbrush and just kind of brush off the excess, and it flakes off and kind of just floats away. And after doing this little test spot, I decided it was good to go. I kind of developed a little bit better of a technique for handling it and just kept moving forward down the line with these stripes. They look good, and moving to the stripes toward the front, which were a little bit more intricate. It was pretty tedious, but all in all, it came out looking pretty good. It's not perfect by any means, but it pops a lot more than the gold paint. So I went ahead and finished up this front side. Had a couple of hiccups. I went back and cleaned all that gold foil up, but the clear coat also kind of peeled up, which means it's probably not adhering that well. But my plan anyways was to give it one more good coat of clear just to seal in that gold leaf as well. I don't know if you can tell right now, but how much I'm dialing in the actual cab of the truck is pretty secondary in comparison to the functionality of it with the drivetrain and the suspension and stuff. And honestly, it's one of my favorite dynamics of these old trucks, or Toyotas in general, is how dialed everything is and how well they function, but the cabs are just beat to shit, and it's not really as important as how it actually works. And with the bar set pretty low in general for the cab, it came out really good. There's definitely overspray and orange peel and all types of stuff going on with the clear coat, but ultimately it darkened it up. I brightened those stripes up, and everything's sealed up real good, so pretty happy with how it turned out. So now it's time to take off all the paper and tape and put back on the mirrors and windshield wipers. I gave those a fresh coat of paint, and then I'm going to go ahead and install the gas tank and the rear shocks.
Couldn't share the pain of what she suffered. Now maybe could have made my own mistakes, but I live with what I've known. And then maybe we might share in something great. Won't you look at where we've grown? Won't you look at where we've gone? And then someday comes tomorrow, holds sense of what I feel for you in my mind. As you trip the fine line, and that cold day when you lost control. Shame you left my life.
So this is about as far as I can take this build at the moment. I'm switching to another build. I helped build a BMX event called Swamp Fest. It's from March 14th to 15th. I'm going to be on site helping getting that going. Tickets are available down below if you want to check out the website. I'm also going to have a booth if you want to come by and grab something, stop by and say hi. So for now, I'm going to take a bit of a hiatus, but when I get back, I'm going to be swapping in this 3.4 and just pushing forward from there. And I recently picked up a hat press, so I'm making a couple hats for a limited time. If you order a shirt, I'll throw a hat in for free. Otherwise, they're up on the site. And I'll see you in a couple months. Thank you.